So you mean to tell me there was a school shooting in Nashville that killed 6, including 3 9-year-olds, and then this was followed up by a peaceful protest by 3 Democratic lawmakers who are now known as the Tennessee Three, and then this peaceful protest was then followed up by these 3 Democratic Tennessee lawmakers being threatened by a Republican supermajority with expulsion. And then 2 of the lawmakers were actually expelled, and these 2 that were expelled were young black men by the name of Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Wow, you just can't make this up. Welcome to this channel. If you are new here, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Today we're going to be discussing a topic that is both timely and important. You see, 2 young men were recently expelled from Congress for peacefully protesting against gun violence. Now, this is a critical moment that highlights the struggles faced by black people in America, even when we become successful. Now, these 2 young men were elected by their constituents to represent them in Congress. They had a platform to speak out against gun violence and demand a change, but instead of being heard, they were expelled from Congress. Now here is Representative Jones facing questioning from his colleagues and laying out his defense.
I was shocked to have the Speaker of the House condemn mothers and children and grandmothers and parents and concerned citizens, clergy, lie on them and say that they were violent insurrectionists. And I think that he owes the people of Tennessee an apology. Because at no point was there violence. At no point did we encourage violence. In fact, what we were doing was calling for the end of gun violence that is terrorizing our children day after day after day, and all we offer are moments of silence. It is in that spirit of speaking for my constituents, of being a representative of the people, that I approached this well on last Thursday. Breaking a House rule, but exercising moral obedience to my constitutional responsibility to be a voice for my people, to be a voice for the Tennesseans who you choose not to listen to because of those NRA checks that are so hefty in your campaign funds. There comes a time where people get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
One of the questions that keeps coming back to my mind that I hope maybe you can answer is when you say no action, no peace, what do you mean? What does Representative Jones mean by no peace? Thank you.
Representative Jones.
Thank you. I would invite my colleague from Putnam County to join any protest where that is a very familiar chant that usually goes, no justice, no peace. And I believe the roots of it lie in something that Martin Luther King stated, that true peace is not merely the absence of tension, but it is the presence of justice. That's what I was saying, is that until we act, there will be no peace in our communities. In addition, I would like to read some context about that chant that comes from Jeremiah 6:14. I'll read the New Living Translation. It says, they offer superficial treatments for my people's mortal wound. They give assurances of peace where there is no peace. I'll go to the New International Version. They dress the wound of my people as though it was not serious. Peace, 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 they say, where there is no peace. That's what the chant means, is that we have no peace. And that until we act, there will be no peace for the thousands of children who came here demanding that we act, who are afraid that if they're in school, they will be gunned down because you have passed laws to make it easier to get a gun than it is to get health care in this state. You've passed laws that make it easier to get a gun than it is to vote in this state. And so that there will be no peace in Tennessee until we act on this proliferation of weapons of war in our community. That is the peace I was talking about. That is what I was saying.
We tell them, you just are throwing a temper tantrum.
And after questioning, the Congress gave Representative Jones 5 minutes to speak, and this is how it played out.
Mr. Speaker, to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I want to say that you have the power, you have the votes to do what you're going to do today. But I want to let you know that when I came to this well, I was fighting for your children and grandchildren too. But to those who here will cast a vote for expulsion, I was fighting for your children too, to live free from the terror of school shootings and mass shootings. When I walked up to this well on last Thursday, I was thinking about the thousands of students who are outside demanding that we do something. In fact, many of their signs said, do something, do something, do something. That was their only ask of us, is to respond to their grief, to respond to a traumatized community. But in response to that, the first action of this body is to expel members for calling for common sense gun legislation. We were calling for a ban of assault weapons, and the response of this body is to assault democracy. This is a historic day for Tennessee, but it may mark a very dark day for Tennessee, because it will signal to the nation that there is no democracy in this state. It will signal to the nation that if it can happen here in Tennessee, it's coming to your state next. And that is why the nation is watching us, what we do here. My prayer to you is that even if you expel me, that you still act to address the crisis of mass shootings. Because if I'm expelled from here, I'll be back out there with the people every week demanding that you act. I pray that we uphold our oath on this floor. Because, colleagues, the world is watching.
Pursuant to Article 2, Section 12 of the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, I hereby declare Representative Justin Jones of the 57th Representative District expelled from the House of Representatives of the 113th Assembly of the State of Tennessee.
Now, in addition, the way Congress tried to shun these men is unacceptable, especially this conversation between Representative Farmer and Representative Pearson. Check this out.
That's why you're standing there, because of that temper tantrum that day, for that yearning to have attention. That's what you wanted, but you're getting it now. So I just advise you, if you want to conduct business in this house, file a bill. Be recognized, stand there and present it, and pass it. All you got to do is pass a bill.
Representative Pearson.
Now, you all heard that. How many of you would want to be spoken to that way? How many of you want to be spoken to that way? We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about even gun violence. How many of you would want to be spoken to that way? The reason that I believe the sponsor of this legislation, of this resolution, spoke that way is because he's comfortable doing it, because there's a decorum that allows it. There's a decorum that allows you to belittle people. We didn't belittle nobody. What we said was that we cannot be beholden to gun lobbyists, to the NRA. We can't be beholden to organizations that don't want to see us make progress on gun violence. We can't be beholden to folks who don't want to see us help save our communities and protect them. But there's something else I think that the sponsor of this resolution has alluded to, and there were a few things here that you said that I want to address. He called a peaceful protest a temper tantrum. Is what's happening outside these doors by Tennesseans who want to see change a temper tantrum? is Sarah, whose son Noah was at the covenant school. He survived. He's 5 years old. And she showed up here demanding that we do something about gun violence. Is that a temper tantrum? Is elevating our voices for justice or change a temper tantrum? But there's something in the decorum of this body that makes it okay to say that folks who are exercising their First Amendment rights to speak up for the hundreds of thousands of people collectively that we represent, there's something in the decorum of this body that says it's okay to call that a temper tantrum, to call people we disagree with on the issues, to say that all they want is attention. But I'll tell you what, I don't personally want attention. What I want is attention on the issue of gun violence. But instead, we're here with the resolution you put up talking about expelling me for advocating for ending gun violence in the state of Tennessee. I'd much rather be talking with you about legislation to protect Shelby County and to protect our communities than talking about why we don't deserve to have our representation lost because we came to the house saying we've got to do something. That's what I would like to be doing. And so you brought attention or tried to bring attention to me, but I want to turn the attention to the people. The people who will never be able to throw a temper tantrum for gun violence. You know, the Larry Thorns, the Catherine Kuntzes, the Mike Hills, the Cynthia Peaks, the Evelyn Decaus, the Haley Scruggs, the William Kennedys, who will never have a chance to throw what you call a temper tantrum for justice, for gun reform, for the ending of gun violence. They'll never have a chance because we haven't taken our oath seriously. Because we don't take people who we disagree with seriously.
Now, ultimately, Tennessee Republicans voted to expel Representative Justin Jones and Representative Justin Pearson. Now, what was the reason for their expulsion? Was it because they had the audacity to speak out against gun violence? Or is it just that? See, this is not a new phenomenon. Throughout history, Black people who have achieved success and a platform to speak out against injustice have faced resistance and even violence. From Malcolm X to Muhammad Ali, we have seen how Black voices are silenced when they speak out against systemic racism. In fact, check out this video I did to show you how this is really not a new phenomenon in the least bit, and why now is the time more than ever to get educated, not only on AI, but on everything financial. Because this systemic oppression is real. Check this video out. And after asking what makes the system so upset with Black people, I realized it's not just Black people. It's really just Black people with a purpose. It's kind of counterintuitive because when you think of America, think of what? The land of opportunity. And all you have to do is just work hard and pull yourself up. We all understand the cultural language on how this nation works. But what happens when you have a system and policies in place that cripple Black achievement and Black aspirations? It sounds kind of counterintuitive, don't you agree? Because how else do you explain how government after government, they work so hard to see that Black children do not get the quality education? Now, let me give you a few examples. In 1947, in Prince Edward County, Virginia, the school board finally agreed to build a high school for Black children. Now, remember, this is a totally segregated society. This is in the Jim Crow era. And this is also after the U.S. helped defeat the Nazis. Put this all in perspective. So now we have a high school. And within a few years, this high school was overpopulated with students. So Black parents were going to the school board demanding that they get a new building. And the school board was like, nah, we're not hearing you. And the parents did not let up. They were relentless in getting their children better conditions to learn. And finally, the school board puts up these tar paper shacks and said, yo, listen, your kids could go there. Now, meanwhile, white children had brick school building and plumbing. And of course, the Black children had none. So this is about 1951 now, right? And this one young woman named Barbara John, she was 17. She said, listen, my name is Soror One. And she organized a massive walkout and a massive demonstration. She said, we are not having it. And it wasn't too long till the death threat started rolling in on the 17-year-old. And all she wanted was a quality education. So her parents sent her all the way up to safety in Alabama. And you know, if you have to go to Alabama for safety in 1901, it's a big problem. Now, meanwhile, Prince Edward County was getting bundled up in the Brown versus Education case. So when Brown came down, Prince Edward County's solution was to team up with the town's fathers and legislation and shut down the entire public school system. Now they thought, listen, we have to have equal schools, and this way, black children and white children won't get equal schooling. Now the black parents was freaking out, of course. They weren't listening to the black parents, but then the white parents started freaking out too, and they was like, nah, we got y'all. You know we're not gonna leave y'all kids uneducated. So what they did, they set up the taxpayer-funded vouchers, and this was to pay tuition for white children to go to an all-white segregated private academy. So white people continue to get educated, but this left nothing for thousands upon thousands of black kids. And it wasn't just Prince Edward County. This was an area throughout the whole South. And when these schools are shut down, like, did you know that Prince Edward County shut down for 5 years? Just think about that. You're in the 5th grade, and when your school reopens, you're now in the 10th grade. Think about everything you lost in those precious 5 years. And this is when the U.S. is going from a manufactured-based economy to a tech-based knowledge economy. And we have all of these black children that the government and school board said we will not educate. So here's some more context. Let me give you some more sense of why power is important. Round 1, 1954, where separate but equal has no place in public education. Round number 2, this is in 1955, and this was the official implementation of the decision. In 1956, the U.S. Congress senators decided to sign the Southern Manifesto, which was a massive resistance to the Supreme Court decision. In 1957, that's when radio signals picked up the first alert, which was known to be the sound of the Soviets launching their satellites in the air. So now it gets real. The federal government does something it has never done before. It deploys hundreds of millions of dollars into education to fund what they believe to be the brain power to fight the Cold War. They said we need scientists and engineers to outdo the Soviets. Now, this National Defense Act was a huge, and it was landmark, and it was spearheaded by 2 Alabamians. Now, if you can only imagine, but Alabama was concerned because they were not permitting black folks. So in the discussion with the Eisenhower administration, they said, listen, we're going to shuffle this bill through, but we need to make sure we do not have to abide by Browns and the financing the brain power of the Cold War. We get to maintain the Jim Crow in our ministry. And the government says, sure, we cool with that. Now, if you see Hidden Figures, think about what that means if more of us was educated in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, even more after the Brown case. And that's why this time is more important than ever for us to take advantage of this informational era. We not only need to educate ourselves, but we need to do it in a way in which we can educate our children and be sure to not let the past repeat itself. See you guys soon. So now we're seeing it again today with the expulsion of these 2 young men from Commerce. But we cannot let their voices be silenced. We must continue to stand up and fight for racial justice, no matter how uncomfortable it may be for some. The struggle may have really just begun.
We have good news, folks. We've got good news that Sunday always comes. Resurrection is a promise, and it is a prophecy. It's a prophecy that came out of the cotton fields. It's a prophecy that came out of the lynching tree. It's a prophecy that still lives in each and every one of us in order to make the state of Tennessee the place that it ought to be. And so I've still got hope because I know we are still here and we will never quit.
It's time for our leaders to listen to our voices and take action to create a more just and equitable society for all. This isn't just a black issue. This is an American issue. We must all come together to fight against racism and injustice. Thank you all for watching. And like always, remember, this was not free. The cost that I ask that you pay is to like and subscribe to the channel and podcast for more important discussion like this. Remember, the struggle of justice never ends. The grind never stops. See you next time.